Do you guys ever do your makeup, feel like it looks like shit, and still jump on camera? Hello. Welcome back to my channel.
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. For those of you new here, my name is Donna, and for those of you not new, thank you so much for continuing to come back and support my channel. I appreciate all of you so very much. Today I am actually doing 2020 wrap-up video. For those of you who are unaware, I do Vlogmas every year. I do upload content every single day in December. However, I save my year-end wrap-ups for January and February because I like to get through the whole entire year before writing everything off entirely. So there's that. So today I'm doing a wrap-up video for 2020, and these are the products that I'm glad I passed up in 2020. I don't have very many of them. I obviously don't have these products, so I am going to put a picture up here for you of them, but chances are many of you know exactly the products that I'm talking about. So the first one on my list, of course, it's on everybody's list except for those that purchased it, is the Becca No Pigment Primer, right? No. Oh my god, it should have been a primer. That's what it should have been. The Becca No Pigment Foundation, the Zero Foundation, or whatever she freaking called this thing. Can you believe that some people purchased this as a foundation and thought it was actually going to work for them? Like, I'm just totally confused by that whole thing. I remember hearing about it. I remember seeing it, you know, previewed or spoiled or whatever on the interwebs, and I was like, well, what the hell is that? Because I know enough, even in my minuscule 3.5 years in makeup, that foundation has pigment in it. It isn't a clear substance. There is no way that it is going to cover the imperfections in your skin that you purchase foundation to cover. If that's what you're looking for, like, use a tinted moisturizer. You don't need a $40 foundation that's got no pigment to it. I think the packaging was really cool. I think the packaging looked amazing. I think the product was absolutely the most ridiculous thing that ever came out of 2020. Honestly. The second thing I have is the Colourpop Candyland collection. So while there was one thing that I wanted from that collection, and it is this. It is the Princess Lolly roller gloss that my friend Grace purchased and sent to me, which I cannot be more grateful for friendships like those. But that eyeshadow palette, I heard nothing but poop about. People were not happy with that eyeshadow palette. And you know, I'm just really thankful that I had gone through my palette roulette series and really dug into my makeup aesthetic well enough to know that I don't like pastels, and everything inside that palette was a pastel moment. So I didn't pick up that palette because everything inside that palette was a pastel moment. I don't like pastels. And I'm super happy that I didn't. I heard that every single matte in that palette was a matte with glitter. Y'all know how I feel about that. And I am just super thankful that it didn't cross my mind to even pick that up. The next thing I have on my list is the Bite Beauty Changemaker foundation, and this seems like it would be a foundation that I would really be interested in. Many of the foundations that I wear that are favorites in my collection are those that are a little more natural, a little more, you know, peekaboo in nature, like you can see your skin through them. But then the more and more and more I watched reviews of this, and then them going back to the product and showing the product in like a review of their hauls and whatnot, the more I heard that this was just not a great foundation. And I think that this was their first foundation. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that they stick more to the lip orientation as far as the beauty world goes. And Maybe they just needed to do a little bit more research before they came out with that foundation. Have you guys heard really great things about this foundation? My friend JC was like, ooh, I think that you'll like this. But the more and more I researched it, the more and more I didn't like what I was seeing or hearing about this foundation. And now it's funny because on these lists for many people, this is one of the worst products that they tried for 2020. So I dodged a bullet there. The next item that I'm glad I passed up was the Urban Decay Ultraviolet palette. I know that this is very polarized. People either really liked it or really did not like it. And the truth of the matter is I've had two of the Urban Decay Naked palettes in my possession at one point in time or another, and ended up either decluttering them, giving them away, taking them back. I guess I've had more than two, but I had two in my collection for longer than a moment in time. I just don't like the Urban Decay Naked formula. I just don't like it. So even though this palette had some purples in it that I could really see myself getting along with, and the color story really did kind of speak to me, I really did like the one part of the palette that was a little more purple in nature, I just didn't purchase it because I don't like the Naked formula as far as eyeshadows go. I like many of their other formulations and eyeshadows, but the Naked formulation has never been one of my favorites. So I did pass up that particular palette, and I'm glad that I did because many of my favorite content creators, many of them, there are a couple that are not in this same boat, but the ones that I really am kindred to as far as what they typically like, I will also typically like. What they typically don't like, I also typically don't like. Many of those creators in my list don't like this palette at all. And call out that the only one that's worth a poop in that palette is that middle shade that's kind of blue but not. So I am really happy that I am not a fan of the Urban Decay Naked formula, because that again is a product that was on the realm of this is a really cool palette this year that I wasn't even interested in. The next one is the Natasha Denona Multi-Chrome Liquid Eyeshadows. And you guys, here's the thing. I didn't pick them up because, do you see all those liquid eyeshadows in there? Do you see all of them? Like, there are several. This one hasn't even been touched. These two Natasha Denona ones, I have opened up one of them and used. Like, I have had some of these for 3 years. They probably should be decluttered. All those Stila ones in there, bet me money. They're dried up so much so that I can't use them. I've had them for way too long. They should have been in my declutters that went on last year. I know I'm not going to use that liquid eyeshadow. I'm not. And I wasn't going to pay $28, even though I stan Natasha Denona. I wasn't going to pay $28 for liquid eyeshadow, knowing full friggin' well that I wasn't going to use it. And then the reviews started coming out, and while they are beautiful on the eye, many of them don't shift enough to give you the multi-chrome effect that you desire, the one that you're seeing from all the crazy awesome lighting that's going on when they're taking pictures or doing videos, when Natasha is like showcasing them on her Instagram or whatnot. They don't shift like that in real life and just instead look very muddy on your eye. One of the ones that I was really super interested in was the Scarab one, and that one is also one that Haley O from Beauty News wore or likes, and she wore it in a couple videos, and I remember thinking that's not at all what I anticipated it to be. So I know I could have very easily put them into a cart and paid 28 bucks a piece for them, and I would have had all of them. All 5 shades would have been in my possession. I also know I would never have used them, and I also know just based off the reviews that it's an item that I'm super glad that I ended up passing up in 2020, because they wouldn't have performed the way I wanted them to. The next thing that I am really glad I passed up because it also was in my cart. I was on the list to get notified as soon as it went on sale, and that was the NikiTutorial Beauty Bae collab. And I want to try Beauty Bae as a formulation, and I love Niki. I think that Niki is the, you know, bar none, one of the most genuine. She is a creator that I love. She is a creator that I think is 100% genuine. She is a creator that I know has worked her way, clawed her way through this crazy, and she's made it. She's on top, right? And I want to support her in any way I can. I didn't buy that trashy Too Faced collaboration, but mostly because I really just wasn't, I just didn't know enough about Niki back then. I didn't even know who she was before that collaboration, to be honest. But I was going to buy this one, but man, even the NikiTutorial stands are like, this is horrible. Even the Beauty Bae stands, the Beauty Bae formula stands are like, this is not good. They say that the only really great one in there is that really deep, or that red shade that she named after her brother, which I think is just heartwarming. But I am really glad that I passed that up, because that was not expensive, so to speak, but it appeared to be a pretty bulky palette. It would have fit decently in my, you know, collection, but it also probably would never get used. And I have so many other palettes that just aren't getting used, and I don't want to pay that much money for a palette that I'm probably going to end up decluttering sometime in the very near future, because I didn't like the formulation of it. You'll have to let me know if you have it and if you enjoy it. I've just really not heard very many. I think there's one good review out of 50 on the internet. Almost every single one of the creators that I watched that did get that palette does not have amazing things to say about it. And I know a lot of them are really light-footed about it and really tender towards, you know, Niki's thought process on it, and wants to speak all the kind words about Niki, but they just don't have that great of an opinion on the formulation of the eyeshadows that exist in that palette. So there's another couple palettes that, honestly, going through Trend Mood, and I'll link her Instagram down below, going through Trend Mood and trying to remember some of the things that really piqued my interest over 2020, that I'm really glad that didn't pique it for long enough that I thought I needed to pick this up, is a Kiwi palette by some no-name brand. I have no idea who this is. It is shaped like a kiwi on the outside, and all of the shades inside are green and beautiful. And like I said in a couple videos ago, or maybe even last video, or maybe you haven't even seen it yet, I don't know, because I'm pre-filming so much, trying to stay on top of my game here. A year ago, would never have even looked sideways at a green palette, ever. But this last year, even within these last like 8 months, I have been so drawn to blues and greens, it's not even funny. So I don't know where it came from or when it started, but I remember that Kiwi palette being at like the beginning of that thought process, and just loving all the greens in that palette. And I cannot remember why I didn't end up purchasing it. I think I didn't end up purchasing it because I didn't know anything about the brand. Again, indie brand, and then pandemic, and it is what it is. Like, I didn't end up purchasing it, but going through Trend Moon, oh my god, I'm so glad I didn't end up purchasing it. It is a round palette. It's got like, I don't know, maybe 8 or 12 shades inside. And it was so expensive for what it was, and that's that. Like, I am really super glad that I passed that up, because that was on my list last year. Another one that I'm really super glad I passed up was the Too Faced Pumpkin Spice palette. You guys, here's the thing. I don't really love Too Faced as a brand. I don't really get along very well with many of their products. I did like a lot their Peach Perfect collection. Like, that was my holy grail foundation for a very long time, until I realized that I really didn't like matte foundations. I really do know that they can come out with some great stellar stuff. I have the chocolate gold palette I love. I have the peach palette. I love that. I have a couple of their blushes. I love those too. Like, they have like things, few and far between things that I am interested in, that I do enjoy. But I have the gingerbread extra spicy from last year. I did a palette roulette on it. I did not like that palette. My friend Lisa thinks that Too Faced is a shit, and she thinks that Too Faced has those, like, you know, holiday or fall themed palettes in the bag. I think I have several friends that feel that way too. Lisa, this was her favorite palette from this last year, this last season, this fall time. This was her favorite palette. I give her credit where credit is due, because she can make that stuff work for her. I cannot make Too Faced shadows, except for those that are in those, you know, 2 or 3 palettes that I have in my collection work for me very well. Like, they're just so, and maybe it's because I like a more colorful eye look, but so does Lisa, so I don't understand that. And then there's me here wearing this totally neutral eye look coming out of my Lunar Beauty palette. This palette was just, I mean, it looked just like every other Too Faced fall time palette, in my opinion. It looked just like the gingerbread extra spicy. It looked just like the gingerbread palette before that. I think the only difference is extra spicy maybe had a pink in it. This one had a purple in it. Like, I'm over Too Faced, honestly, and I am glad I did not jump on that train. The next one I have is the Huda Nymph highlighter. Do you guys remember this thing? It was shaped like a rose, and it was like huge. It was a huge highlighter, and it was a beautiful like coppery gold color, and I think it was called Nymph. Beautiful highlighter. I wanted that so bad. I came this close to purchasing it I don't know how many times. Every single person who I know who has talked about this highlighter talked about the fact that their highlighter came broken. So, or broke later on in the mix. So I'm really glad that I did not spend that amount of money on a beautiful highlighter for it to come broken and have absolutely no purpose for me, because the only reason why I would have been buying it was the aesthetic of the product itself. The fact that that product was a rose, it would have been like a super bougie thing to have up on my, you know, my vanity over here, or a super bougie thing to show up in my camera and say, look what I purchased. It's this rose looking highlight. What are you going to do with it when it's broken? It's no longer beautiful. And that, I mean, it's still a highlight. You can still use it, but it's no longer beautiful. It's no longer got the properties within it that created the reasons that you wanted to buy it. So I'm super glad I did not spend the money on that. So then there was some just all around things that I'm super glad I didn't fall into the trap of this year. And one of which is all the monochrome that we saw going on with Colourpop, Huda Beauty, and to go along with that, also the pastels. Oh my God. It was monochrome and pastel hell over this last year. Like, I get it. Pastel is good for somebody out there, but it ain't me. I am so glad, because I did fall into that pastel pit at one point in time. I have a NYX Air review on, as far as like a palette that I reviewed through my palette roulette series, and I think that's the palette that I really learned about myself in the way that I knew that I could not buy pastels and have any fun with that. And I thank God that I reviewed that palette prior to the pastel nation that was happening over the last year in makeup land, because I didn't even side-eye any of those pastel palettes. Not one of them looked appealing to me. In addition to that, the monochrome. So I have a bunch of the Huda Beauties up here. You guys see these up here. every time I use those palettes, I want more. I want and desire more depth, more color, more something else. So I know myself enough, my makeup aesthetic enough to know that if I get any of those monochrome palettes, I'm also going to want another palette to go with it. And I know myself well enough to know I like to dig into one palette at a time, which is why I have the Palette Roulette series, right? I know that I would have been probably decluttering some of those palettes for sure, and or pissed off every single time I use those palettes at myself for purchasing them. So really, really happy I didn't fall into that matrix of crazy. So many people did. So then I put on the list, but I can't remember if these guys came out in 2020 or if they came out in 2019, and maybe it was late 2019. I can't remember. But House Labs. You guys, do you hear much from House Labs anymore? Like, I love Lady Gaga. So when I first heard about House Labs, and that's, I think, why they're on my list. When I first heard about House Labs, I was like, yes, Lady Gaga has a makeup brand. And then I heard about the fact that I think they maybe came out in 2019. That's okay. We're going to talk about them anyway. Then I heard that it was all, you could only purchase it on Amazon, which I thought was odd. And then it was all pre-sale. You could only purchase it on Amazon, and you had to pay for it, and you had to wait 9 years for it to show up to your house. What? No, that's not how I buy makeup. I have a hard time waiting on my lucky bag. So there's that. That's not how I buy makeup. So I was like, nope, not buying into that, not doing it. And then she started coming out with more stuff, and none of it has been amazing. Nothing has been eye-catching. Nothing has been, like, what happened to Lady Gaga? That's all I got to say about that. What happened? Because she's amazing. I love her so much. I want to support her so much, but nothing in her makeup line is even remotely interesting. Not to me anyways, in my opinion. Not to me. One I want to add in real quick because it just came out in December. That Huda Beauty Naughty palette. Blech. Blech. What is that? What is that? Okay, so first and foremost, that palette looks just like all of her other palettes. It's just a deeper version of her new Nude, and I have that palette, and I can deepen it up if I want to. Also, what the hell is that in the corner? I get that it's like an eye gloss. Have y'all ever used an eye gloss? One of the trends that I couldn't stand behind is like Vaseline on your eyes. That's kind of what it reminds me of. Like, I can't. I've worn eyeglasses. They are uncomfortable. They feel like you literally slathered Vaseline all over your eyeballs. Why would you want to do that? It's like taking your makeup erasing balm and putting it on your eye and calling it a day. Like, this is me, my makeup. All right, so with that being said, please don't think that this is all about me being, I mean, I am out here talking a little bit of negativity, I really am, but this is about what was presented to us in 2020 as makeup, what I could have brought into my collection because I really wanted it, regardless of the amount of FOMO that I had for it in that moment, and what I'm glad I actually didn't pull the trigger on. That is all it's about. I hope that you realize that you probably have a little bit of that going on too, whether it's with makeup or purses or a pair of shoes or a television show that you're glad you didn't waste 19 hours of your life watching. Yes, I am talking about the Tiger King. Is that what it even was called? So anyways, I do hope that you guys enjoyed the video though, and I do hope that if you did, you're considering giving it a big thumbs up. I hope that you liked it or me enough that you want to stick around for a bit and you're considering subscribing to my channel before you go. If you do that, please don't forget to hit the notification bell. I do upload content multiple times a week, and I would hate for you to miss any of my content. It would be totally tragic, in my opinion, for you to subscribe to me and then never see me in your feed. That would just be awful. I couldn't imagine not showing up in your feed. I would be sad. Please leave me a comment down in the comment section telling me what you are happy that you passed up in 2020, whether it be makeup, whether it be clothing, whether it be shoes, or whether it be Tiger King. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. I hope that January is treating you well, and I hope that 2021 is treating you well. I hope that you and yours are safe, and we're maintaining safety precautions such as wearing our masks when we're out in public, if for no other reason but to keep yourselves safe and your family members safe. I also hope that you all are loving each other, but loving each other from afar. And until next time, bye everyone.